morning and welcome back to Questioning Sense with me, Matt. Okay, regular viewers will know that we were talking about a top 10 of rose perfumes. So here it is. Okay, when I first got into fragrance, if someone told me that rose would become sort of my favourite note, I wouldn't have believed them. But then over time, wearing more and more and becoming more and more exposed to it, I just realised it's just a note that I love, and it comes in such varied ways. Rose lends itself well with so many other materials. I mean, obviously, oud and rose seems to be one of my favourite combination, or is my favourite combination, and I have a lot of it. So rose has always been around in perfumery, and I think even as kids, you know, a lot of us have mucked about making rose water and crushing petals and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a natural sort of extension of that to be drawn towards perfumes with you know, rose in them or a dominant rose note. I'm not entirely sure, you know, what the chemical connection is with it or anything like that, but to me it just resonates so well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through my favourite rose fragrances. Now, there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of them out there, so this is going to be by no means an exhaustive list, and I fully intend to sort of add to it and take away from, subtract from it, as you know, my fragrance journey continues. I'm only using examples here today of bottles that I actually own, so I don't own any Maison Francis Coeur de Jean full bottles of the fragrances he's made with rose in, so there'll be no oud silk mood or oud satin mood, although if I owned them they would certainly be in this list because I think they're absolutely superb and really good examples of rose fragrances. So what we'll do is because there's quite a lot to get through, this isn't going to be like an exhaustive review. This is kind of just a little sort of introduction and oversight. Most of these have got full reviews below, so you can find them, and some of them I haven't reviewed as individual perfumes just yet, but trust me, I will get around to doing it. So let's, and the other, sorry, before we get into this, what I do like about this whole sort of rose and rose oud or rose perfumes is that they're very available. You have some very high-end and very expensive ones. If you look at, say, like the Spirit of Dubai and Fakama and fragrances like that are incredibly expensive, and then you've got right down to some real sort of Middle Eastern fragrances that are incredibly cheap. You can also get a whole range of attars and roll-on perfume oils as well, which do a really good job too. And I have got some which I will probably review at another point and then give them away because I do like them, but I don't really wear them that much. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. So what we'll do is we'll get through the list. We'll have a little chat about each of them. They're in no specific order, and I'm trusting Rich is going to put the numbers up at the bottom, because every time I do a list I get hopelessly lost and end up reading out the wrong numbers. So I'm not going to do that, but I will obviously celebrate the number one. So we'll start at 10, work our way down. These aren't really, as I say, in any particular order. There are some I love more than others, and you'll probably notice that by the way I start gushing about them when we talk about them. But the number one spot is my definite number one. All right, so let's start with this one. I've mentioned it quite a few times. This is Ferraris Essence Oud, a real cheapie, great bottle, great presentation. This is a oud and rose combination, as you would expect in this video. Beautiful bottle. Really good presentation. This is incredibly long lasting, and this is, sometimes I've read it's been accused of smelling a bit like an old lady. I hate that terminology. It makes no sense to me at all. Perfume's perfume. What you associate with it is your business effectively, and it's always used in a derogatory way, and I don't really get that. I don't think it's justified. So there we have this one. This is also a really good introduction to the world of oud and rose. So a good one. I mean, this is only a 50ml bottle. It does come in 100ml as well, but well worth having a look at if you want to start a rose oud journey. So that's the first one. Next up, we probably have the rosiest of fragrances that I own, and that is Rose Flash from Towerville. This is excellent. This is a really powerful, long-lasting, very strong rose fragrance. There's no oud in this at all. I think this is the only one on my list that hasn't got an oud note in there. Rich, resinous, sweet, jammy, fabulous, really good, really long-lasting, and it's this. it just has the most amazing performance, but it smells fabulous. In fact, what I've taken to doing with it lately is I've been layering it with Vanilla Flash from the same collection, and that works incredibly well. But as a standalone, sweet, completely unisex rose fragrance, Rose Flash from Towerville, £53 as well, so real cheapy in terms of what you get for quality. Okay, next up, my scent of the day. This is what I'm wearing today, and this is from Montal Paris, and this is Spicy Oud. This was a blind buy for me, and I was expecting it to be quite different to what actually came. This is it is spicy and it is oud. It has that Montal signature oud note that, you know, if you're a fan of the house or Mancera, you'll know that smell very well. But the rose is really good in this, and there's a little bit of vanilla under there. Love this fragrance because it also, later on in my fragrance journey, I found another fragrance which this reminds me of quite a bit. I will come back to that later. So, Spicy Oud, very loud, very long lasting, punchy, gorgeous stuff. Full review of that below. Next up, we have a recent addition, which is Swiss Arabian's Shagaf Oud Aswad. This is a very cheap fragrance, but don't let that put you off. It's a blinder. Really strong rose note, woody, classic Middle Eastern fragrance. Smells incredibly luxurious, smells incredibly expensive. Beautiful unisex fragrance there. I highly recommend this. This is another cheapie that you should certainly be having a look at. And its sister, the gold bottled Shagaf Oud, is also very good. It does have a rose note in it as well, but I would say that that's more of a sweet sort of praline-like fragrance, whereas this is a straight-up oud-rose combination. The oud in this is actually pretty good smelling too. It does smell like there's real oud in there, which I strongly doubt because of the price, but it does smell good, so don't worry about that. Have a look at that one. Next up, we have the Oud from Mancera. There is a full review of this, I believe. If not, there should be, because this is a really good fragrance. Sweet rose, strong synthetic oud, woods, slightly leathery in the dry down, huge performance, very long lasting. Gets a real lot of compliments. This is a classy fragrance and it smells very classy too. It's beautiful. The oud note in this one is actually quite medicinal in the opening. So it's one, you need to like your oud smell for a start because the oud is quite dominant in this. And it's certainly very noticeable, but well worth having a look at. And as you can see, you might not be able to see that, I've pounded through that. This is actually, I think, the first one from Mancera stroke Montal that I actually owned, and I really like this. Excellent perfume, beautiful dry down actually. The dry down makes this something else. Next up, another from Mancera, and this one is Black Lion. This is a sweeter take on the whole rose thing. It's deep, it's resinous, but it has an airy smell around it. It's just, it's lovely. Really good fragrance, really good performance. And it's just that a lot of the times when Mancera or Montal use a rose, they use it quite heavily. And the rose smell is very strong. It is the dominant note within this, but it's sweet. It's not quite jammy. It's kind of sweet and airy, and it's really good. And what I like about this is the performance, because it's not a massive projection monster. It doesn't keep belting out like a lot of them do. But this is really airy, so it's always with you. It lasts an incredibly long time, but it's one that gives off little wafts now and again. So you've always got it with you, but it's not banging out in the room. So this would be really good for work, actually. Very long lasting, as I said, and quite beautiful. I do love these bottles as well. Really, I might wear this tomorrow, actually. We shall see. Next up, this is a really good example of how an oud and rose can be quite different. This is St. Dupont's Oud Rose. Now, what I like about this is there's a couple of interesting notes in here, which I don't have many perfumes with them combined with rose, and that's lemongrass and lime. So what that actually gives you is a rosy smell, but it's not a red rose. This is like a green rose. So it's almost like they've taken the entire plant, stem, leaves and everything to make this rose accord, which is at times during the wearing of this fragrance It almost feels like it's got a menthol vibe to it. Now, when I did the review of this, I described this as being in a greenhouse full of sort of plants grown for the medical industry, and I stand by that. It's quite sharp. It's certainly not for your first perfume if you're going down the Oud Rose route, because this is not like many others that you're going to find. It is quite raw smelling. It's very green. It's rosy. You certainly get a rose smell from it, but it's not sweet at all until some sandalwood kicks in a bit further down the life of this perfume, and then it starts becoming a little sweeter and a little creamier, and it smooths out. So it's a bit of an assault on the senses with your first spray, but my God, it's beautiful. I really, really enjoy this one. And it's not one that I wear a great deal, and that's only because I think it's at the back of my collection and I have to reach over lots of bottles to get to it, but certainly worth exploring. Really, really good presentation. As you can see, the bottles are beautiful. And I got this for under £40 from Latino, so please keep your eyes peeled for that one. It's really long lasting as well. It does smell a little bit like it has come from Montal or Mancera, but it is quite unique in its own right. And that lemongrass and the lime just make a really exciting perfume. But again, I will just stress, this probably isn't for someone who's looking for a sweeter, more jammy rose, because it's not that way inclined at all. And the other problem with St. Dupont is I've never seen them in a store, so you're going to have to blind buy these, and that's a bit risky. Although I personally love it, you might not, so just be aware of that. Okay, so that's St. Dupont's Oud and Rose. Excellent fragrance. Now, guess where we're going? That's right, back to Mancera and Black to Black. This is got to be one of the biggest hitting perfumes that I own. This is a monster. I recommended this to, we've discussed this before. I recommended this to Richard because I thought he'd like it. He hated it. It nearly killed him. And then we discovered that he has a real issue with rose in fragrances. So with this, you've got the biggest opening I think I've got in perfume. It's absolutely huge. It fogs out, it dominates rooms, it's so powerful, it's so long lasting. You've got to be really, really careful with the sprayer. But once you've got your, you know how much to use, and you've got your technique on, down pat, this is superb. I cannot recommend this enough. It's an absolutely beautiful fragrance. Really, really well crafted. There's oud, there's saffron, there's a bit of leather, there's a bit of wood, there's obviously tons of rose. Huge, huge fragrance, and I cannot recommend this enough. So that's Mancera's Black to Black. And next up, we have a gift from my family for me for Christmas, which really made my heart sing. And that is Duetto from Suspiro. Now, this is absolutely wonderful. It is an expensive fragrance, I'm not going to lie, but it can be had for a bargain if you're searching online for it. There has, as I've mentioned before, there's been a change in the presentation on these, so these are sort of older furry bottles are still, you can still find them at discounters for a very good price, but it is an expensive fragrance, and I'm not going to lie about that. But you have an almost skanky rose. It's a little bit grubby, but it's joined by some beautiful notes. There's a little bit saffron in here. There's some vanilla. There's some, just warm, unctuous notes that just sit around that rose. This is incredibly polarizing. A lot of people don't like it because they think it may be a bit too feminine. I think this is perfectly unisex, and I wear this an awful lot. Now, remember when I mentioned this one earlier, they're not a million miles apart. This one is louder, it's screechier, and it's more synthetic, but it does kind of give a fair impression of this one. So Duetto, if you can't find it at a good price and you don't want to spend the money, have a look at that, because they don't, if you spray them side by side, they will smell wildly different. And as I say, this one's a lot sharper, it's a lot more synthetic, it's not as unctuous, it's not as deep, it's not as rich, but it does do a fair impression of this one. So if you can't get Duetto at a decent price, have a look at Spice Oud. If you have got the money and you just want to buy an amazing perfume, then go for that, because it is stunning and the performance is absolutely ridiculous. It opens quite quietly and then it just builds and builds and builds on my skin. Amazing sillage, huge projection, really, really long lasting. This is beautiful. This is a 100ml bottle, and because you have to use so little of it. This is going to last a very, very long time, which pleases me greatly. And it does get a lot of wear as well. I really, really enjoy that one. Highly recommended. And then finally, the number one spot, my favourite rose perfume, one that I absolutely adore, fallen in love with, will never be without, and that is this one. Again, this one's quite polarising, but I love it. And this is Gerof's More Than Words from the Join the Club collection. This is luxury in a bottle. It's, I could wear this all day, every day. It's a very expensive perfume. To me, it's worth every single penny you spend on it. Nuclear performance. This is absolutely huge. It fills rooms. It stays on your skin forever. And it's absolutely beautiful. The presentation is second to none. I love these bottles. They're absolutely glorious. And it is a very expensive perfume. I'm not going to, you can't avoid that. You might be able to pick it up in some Facebook groups or something like that for a good price. Maybe get a partial or something like that. But if you are into rose and you're into oud, I just love this so much. I haven't got a bad word to say about it. It opens kind of almost fruity, and then the fruit kind of blends with the rose and the oud and the other bits and bobs in there. This is a very complicated fragrance. It doesn't smell synthetic, it doesn't smell screechy, it smells really, really rich and thick and deep and unctuous and just, it's dreamy, dreamy stuff. I cannot, I haven't got the vocabulary to do this fragrance justice. I love it that much, and I mean that with all sincerity. This is a beautiful fragrance. If you are near any stores that carry it and you've never smelt it before, try and get a sniff of it. If you're in Harrods, go straight up to the 6th floor, go to the Gerof people and say you want to try this before you do anything else. It's absolutely stunning and I adore it. So obviously, yes, this will be my number one. Listen, I'm always looking for more interesting oud and rose combinations or rose fragrances. So can you do us a favour and put down, ones that you think I might like, and then I'll endeavour to try and get a sample of them, or go and smell them in store, find them, like them and buy them, and then we can review them as well. Listen, thank you very much for participating in the little giveaway we did with the last video. There's going to be quite a few more coming up. I just need to get a couple of things sorted out, and then we will start trying to do some kind of giveaway with every video, so you've always got an opportunity to smell something that we've reviewed or talked about that you may or may not own. Anyway, thank you ever so much for your time. It's really, really appreciated. Loving all the comments coming back. Nice to have some banter and know a bit more about you guys as well. If you want to contact me directly, more than happy for that. Just go via our Instagram page. Just send me a message and I'll reply to it straight away, or as soon as I get it, basically. And so if you have any questions or anything like that, just hit us up that way and we'll be more than happy to answer them. So Rich has been dreading this because rose is his least favourite note. So now that's out of the way.
So thank God that's over. I mean, it's over, right? There's not more, right? I mean, right?
And we can come back to you with some reviews that Rich might actually enjoy. Anyway, listen, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure. See you on the next video, and bye.